from the title, I'll rest when I'm dead. So I hear that a lot from people. Oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or I'll rest when I'm dead. Every time I hear somebody say that, the part of me that wants to always go, is that true? The part of me that says, I wonder, will we rest when we're out of this flesh? Now, this is not a topic about immortality, but just for a moment, if you believe in eternal life, we believe that this is not life and that's not something else. It's just life in a different form. Will we rest when we're out of this form? Maybe we have choice. Maybe we will be very active in a very different way. So I find myself really checking that out. We're like, will I rest when I'm dead? Really? We say rest in peace. Why not live in peace? Why not find the balance? So that was my first inspiration, is really to question that. And then sort of a disclaimer before I go any further. There is definitely a difference between what I'm talking about when I say rest versus lazy. And I trust that you all know the difference for yourself. And if you've never really thought about it, well, that's my job, is just to make you think about stuff. So take that home and go, so what is the difference for me between rest and lazy? Because the line sometimes can feel like a fine line, but clearly as we continue on, you'll understand that difference. So another inspiration for me was found in this quote right here. It says at the top, I'll read it in case you can't see it on Facebook, let yourself rest. If you're exhausted, rest. If you don't feel like starting a new project, don't. If you don't feel the urge to make something new, just rest in the beauty of the old, the familiar, the known. If you don't feel like talking, stay silent. If you're fed up with the news, turn it off. If you want to postpone something until tomorrow, do it. If you want to do nothing, let yourself do nothing today. Feel the fullness of the emptiness, the vastness of the silence, the sheer life in your unproductive moments, which are also very productive, we'll find out. Time does not always need to be filled. You are enough simply in your being. By Jeff Foster. I'm going to just leave it there for a minute. If there's any parts you want to go back and grab for yourself. Last week, we talked about play. And I made the statement, nobody ever got to their deathbed saying, I wish I would have worked more. Almost everybody gets to the end of their life and says, oh, I wish I would have spent more time playing. I wish I would have maybe traveled more or done more fun things. I think this goes with this one today too. Rest. Now I know if you're still working, those of us still in a work life, it feels as if sometimes we can't. No, I can't because the clock, right? The clock, the time clock, the boss. I get that. So especially if you're still working, it's really, really even more important then to find the ways, to find the unscheduled time to do so. If you've got little children, I know, you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't have time to rest, I got little kids. Somehow, somewhere, some way, it's so important to find that. Because I don't want you to get to your deathbed and say, dang, I wish I would have played more, I wish I would have rested more. I don't want that for us. I want us to find the balance now. This is a very radical idea in most cultures. Now, a lot of the Eastern cultures that have Buddhism at their helm, they do a little bit better at it. But in most cultures, it's a radical idea to find balance and to let yourself rest. Because our societies push us. They're always demanding us to be busy. So much so that people even make up busy work just to look busy. Even if they're not busy, even if they don't need to be busy, they make themselves look busy because it's such a high value. We're always pushing, we're always achieving, we're always working. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with achieving, but I'm talking about the too much part. So, my beloved author, Brene Brown, I love her so much, Brene Brown said, it takes courage to say yes to rest and play in a culture where exhaustion is seen as a status symbol. If you're already retired, you may not realize how prevalent this is, or maybe you just go back about however far years ago, oh yeah. We live in a culture where exhaustion is seen as a status symbol. Oh, I worked 16 hours today. Oh, that's nothing. I worked 22. Oh, I didn't. Oh my gosh, when did that become a thing? Right? That became a thing. Status symbol, no more. So it takes courage. It's radical. It takes a lot of courage to say, I'm going to do nothing right now. I personally, this is how I know this, I'm pretty good at it. I'm pretty good at allowing myself to rest. I'm pretty good at on-scheduled time. I'm pretty good at saying, I don't feel like it right this moment. I'm pretty good. And yet, even with that, there's this kind of inner nagging sometimes that says, oh, you should be doing something. Right? Anybody who's good at resting, but they also feel that like, oh, should I? Is this okay? It's radical. To take care of myself. Thank you for raising your hands, right? Anybody else in the room? You know, it's that, I don't know. I do good at it, but there's still that sometimes that little thing. And when you have people around you who really kind of push it, what, you're just going to sit there and do nothing? Yeah. It takes courage. It takes skill. I used to know somebody, used to live with somebody who was like that. What, you only got 3 hours worth of gardening done today? And then you have to go teach 5 hours of dance? Well, I was young and dumb then, and I didn't just say, yeah. Now I would. Now I said, yeah, you know what? This next 2 hours is mine. Period. I've grown in that courage, like Brown says, to be able to say yes, and not wear exhaustion as a status symbol. There's physical exhaustion, there's emotional exhaustion, there's mental exhaustion, and there's soul exhaustion. Do not negate the fact that sometimes your soul just needs a break. People might say, well, you haven't been doing much physically, so why are you so tired? Oh, but you have no idea what's been going on in my home life, or my parents' life, or somebody who's sick that I'm taking care of life. You have no idea what this soul exhaustion is, and it's a real thing. Please honor it in yourself. Now, isn't it interesting that our culture puts this status symbol on exhaustion and holds it as such a high value when even almost all of our religions tell us, take a Sabbath, take a day of rest. We even hear in Genesis, if the Bible is your thing, and on the seventh day God rested. You know, like as if God used to rest. But you get the idea. If God rested on the seventh day, and if we're told to take a Sabbath, and if all the religions are teaching this, then we really need to put that other thing aside. The thing that says push, push, push. In Matthew, going with the Bible, we also hear these words. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. I mean, what do we suppose this stuff means, right? We're not really supposed to take that seriously, of course. Come to me, come on to the spiritual side of things. Come in, all you who labor and are heavy laden. To me, that's very much like the song that Ross sings, I Need to Be Still. Take this load off my shoulders, right, Miss Sherry? Take this, S-H-I-T, off my shoulders. Come to me and I will give you rest. Is this not an invitation to trust Spirit? Is this not an invitation? And I said to Ross earlier when he got through singing that song that I feel the song today as an anchor. I feel it as an invitation to trust. Because what's going to happen if I don't rest? It's like saying I have to control everything. I have to do everything. What happens if we trust instead? So to me, this is implied in this conversation about rest. I'm going to rest because the world is going on, whether I'm in control of it or not. Life is moving forward, whether I stress out about it all or not. Life, and even close to me, people are moving on and doing what they do, whether I figure out all their answers for them or not. Right? I mean, that rest is in, trust is in rest. Now, in order to see it the most, I think, the most easy, not quite the right grammar, but you get what I mean. Go out to Mother Nature, right? Mother Nature is a very natural thing. We don't live with a whole lot of Mother Nature here, but we have enough just to remind us that she has her cycles. She has her fallow time. She has her resting time. Creatures rest, trees rest, things rest. Why? Fight it. Because we're part of nature. Joanne reminds us of that all the time. We're nature too. We are nature. We're not separate from it. So allowing that natural cycle of rest is essential, really. It's essential for our physical health. It's essential for our mental, our emotional health. It restores balance. How do you feel after a good night's sleep? You feel restored. You feel rested. Rest might mean sleep and it might not mean sleep. It might mean unscheduled time. It might mean full-on sleep. Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Buddhist monk, said, it is very important that we relearn the art of resting and relaxing. Not only does it prevent the onset of many illnesses that develop through chronic tension and worry, it allows us to clear our minds and find creative solutions to problems. I like it that he calls it an art, the art of resting and relaxing. He talks about it's good for our body, it is good for our mind, it's good for our emotions, it's good for our soul. This morning I was in my meditation and I remembered an episode of Law and Order SVU. Anybody in the room watch SVU? Yeah. Becky and I like to watch SVU, not because of the violence, but because we like to figure it out. We like the whodunit part of it. But there was this one episode where at the beginning they set the scene. Somebody was found dead in a alley. And someone said, oh, it's probably that old man wandering around, this old man who walks around all hours of the night. And I saw blood on his clothes. So they're setting the scene like this is the first suspect, this man. And finally they get him into the police station. And he has blood on his clothes. And they're asking him. And the whole time he's asking, his eyes are doing like this. Like he looks like he's going to fall asleep the whole time. And finally he says to Dr. Wong, who's the psychologist, he says, no, I'm out wandering all hours of the night because I can't sleep. And he said, no, literally, I can't sleep. I haven't slept in months. I can't sleep. Well, the man was so obviously physically unhealthy and emotionally, he was just like ready to have a breakdown. I can't sleep. Well, it turns out that he wasn't the guy. He happened to stumble across the person who was dead. And as he walked by, he bent over and he got some blood on his clothes. But it just struck me how I've never ever not been able to sleep for days like that. Matter of fact, I call myself a sleep baby. But not been able to sleep. And what did it do to this man? It ravaged him. It ravaged him in all kinds of ways. Just brought out to me like the other extreme. Right? If you're not ever able to sleep, if you're not ever able to rest, it ravages the body, the mind, the soul. So back to resting and why we need to rest. Ask yourself, I already mentioned one of it, that little nagging inner voice that says, oh, you should be busy. What is it? Maybe this is your homework. Ask yourself, what is it that prevents me from resting? What is it that keeps me from unscheduled time? How often do you have unscheduled time? Are you the kind of person who goes on vacation and has every hour of the day mapped out and scheduled? Or can you just like go sit under a tree and do nothing? Can you go sit by the pool in the shade and do nothing? Unscheduled time. Ask yourself, what prevents me from doing that? Is it really the clock or is it my own little nagging you should get up and do something? And then the practice then is do that. Have unscheduled time. Have time where you say, right now I'm going to sit here and breathe and I'm going to watch the hummingbird out my window. Right now I'm not going to be attentive to my phone, and if it rings, I may look, just make sure it's not my mom. Otherwise I'm going to ignore it. You know, little bits and pieces of unscheduled time. How can you all be challenged to find a little bit more of it? And if it's not you, if you're sitting here thinking, I have too much of it, then how do you help somebody else with it? Because it's always a, how do I do it for me, and then how do I help somebody else? So if it's not you who needs it, who do you know who needs it? Maybe you turn them on to this message. Maybe you tell them a few little bits and pieces of it. Lastly, and probably most importantly, stillness. In the stillness of this moment, Spirit fills this place. That was a flashback, singing the introit song. We haven't heard that one for a long time. But in the stillness of this moment, Spirit fills this place. That's another form of rest. Stillness that's maybe mindful and intentional to feel the presence of the divine within. Silence that is filled with joy. Silence that is filled with peace. Silence that is filled with love. Silence that is filled with that God essence, or whatever you call it. The silence where the inner harmony actually lives. Silence where the inner peace hangs out. I often say this is how we know Spirit most intimately. Yeah, we can experience it in many ways. But if you want the intimacy, it's in the stillness. It's in the silence. And that in of itself is rest. It's rest that can then fill us back up and restore that inner sense of balance. So rather than rest in peace when I'm dead, how about rest in spirit today? Rest in spirit today. So I want to read you something from Ernest Holmes, but I'm going to invite you to close your eyes while I read it and take it in at your heart level rather than your head level. And then we'll have a moment of silence to actually feel that presence, and then we'll do our final prayer. It's the very beginning of the Science of Mind textbook. He calls it, Peace be unto thee, stranger. Peace be unto thee, stranger. Enter and be not afraid. I have left the gate open, and thou art welcome to my home. There's room in my house for all. I have swept the hearth and lighted the fire. The room is warm and cheerful, and you will find comfort and rest within. The table is laid, and the fruits of life are spread before thee. The wine is here also. It sparkles in the light. I have set a chair for you where the sunbeams dance through the shade. Sit and rest and refresh your soul. Eat of the fruit and drink of the wine. All is yours, and you are welcome. Sit and rest and refresh your soul. Just join me for a moment with those words and just breathe. Sit and rest and refresh your soul. Inside of yourself, perhaps say something like, I am worthy of rest. Maybe something like, I give my soul the rest it needs. Find something like that for yourself. That when the nagging inner voice says you should be busy, that you replace it with, I honor my soul's need for rest. I honor my body's need for rest. I sit for a moment in the silence. Find what works for you. Sit and rest and refresh your soul. Taking a nice deep breath, remembering with me that there is only one thing. Some call it God, Goddess. Some call it Spirit, Source. Some call it the all that is. Some call it energy. Some call it love. Some call it the thing itself. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that we find what resonates with us. Remembering that that one source is peace. Nothing ever disturbs the one source. How silly. This one is never violated. It is never angry. It is never disturbed in any way. It is always the almighty energy everywhere. This one is intelligence. Just look at the way a seed goes into the soil and becomes something. There's intelligence in that. This one is power. And I don't mean force. I mean the power that lives and moves and has its being right here by means of me, by means of all. And so we feel that presence as our very own, closer than hands and feet, with every breath, with every heartbeat. And let us remember that we are created in the image and likeness of this one, and so we have all the intelligence that we need, all the peace, all the love, all the joy, everything we can name is already ours. And so what I claim for us today is that we open our heart, our arms, our mind, whatever needs to open to receive it. And we do receive it. I speak my word for us that we take the time, unscheduled time this week. We take the time to rest, to sit, to be still, and to refresh our soul. And in this, we experience Spirit more fully. This is our truth, and I know we can do it. And so I'm grateful to speak this word for all of us. And with this gratitude, I release this word into that beautiful soil that knows how to grow it. I let go and I let God. And join me in saying,
and so it is.